Well, hello there. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. It's Monday, and we do not have a regular show planned. If you guys have questions, I have some things I wanted to talk about, but I kind of explain to you some things that are coming up this week as well on the show. So we have, we're going to have Bill, the chief petitioner in Oregon, on the Governor Tina Kotek recall. He can tell you where that's at. Stuck in the courts. He has to decide whether he wants to take it, but I'm going to let him talk to you tomorrow night about that. They're also going to talk to you about a plan to get non-affiliated voters registered in Oregon. Because did you guys know that in Oregon, the Democrat Party people call it a blue state. It's really not. It's a in-between state. Oregon, it has more non-affiliated voters than they do Democrats, than the Democrats do. And they have more of non-affiliated voters than Republicans. So that is the largest voting bloc in the state of Oregon. And yet a lot of you who are non-affiliates don't vote. So there's a move in Oregon to try to get you guys to vote because it's important that people have a voice in their government, that you have a say in what's going on. And for too long, Oregonians have allowed the Democrat Party to run the state, and that needs to stop. There needs to be balance in Oregon. Because all this gender bullshit, that's there because there's not balance in Oregon. There's not people going, wait a minute. No, there are only two sexes. There's a male and a female. Remember during COVID, when you and I were told, when we said, this doesn't make sense, and they said, follow the science. Well, when it comes to gender, why can't the people who are pushing binary stuff, why can't they look at it and say, wait a minute, there is chromosomes. I mean, there is scientific genes that say what you are. You're either male or female. Now, you may not think you're a male. You may have a penis and feel like you're a woman. That's your business. You may be a woman and feel like you should be a man. That's your business. But it doesn't make you a man or a woman just because that's what you want to be. You're born with one or either that chromosome or the other chromosome. You don't get to decide on your own. You can decide how you want to live your life. It's a free country, and you should be able to. But you don't get to force the rest of us to think that that's norm. What is it? No, not normal. What's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't make you a man because you're a woman and you want to be a man. You're a woman who wants to be a man, who identifies as a male. But don't make the rest of us have to refer to you and look at you and think that's a woman, because you're not a woman, you're a man. And I think people are done with that. We're just not, and it's not homophobe and it's not transphobe. It's just facts. Remember how during COVID you guys wanted the facts? We want the facts. We follow the facts, follow the science. Now here we are with this issue. We're trying to follow the science, and we can't. The other one that's bugging me right now that I'm having some issues with, trans women are men. Do they teach genetics anymore? Larice, they ignore it, and I don't understand why they think that they can. It makes no sense to me. And another issue that makes absolutely no sense to me is we live in a country of free speech, right? Okay, right? We all agree we have free speech. Now, the more liberal portion of our communities have come up with hate speech. So hate speech is anything you say to me that I don't like or that I don't agree with. So then they try to make you a hater because you disagree with them, when in fact is you just disagree with them. Doesn't mean you hate them. Doesn't mean what you're saying, like right now, what I just said about gender affirmation. People in different communities will take that and want to make that into hate speech, but it's not. I don't hate anybody because they feel that way. I'm basing my ideas, my thoughts on science and genealogy, genetics. You can't change that. It's make-believe, and you can't force people to go along with your make believe. Um, did you see this case in Portland where two homeless men, one black, one white, get into a fight? Um, the white man, let me get this right, called the black man the N word. The black man stabbed the white man. They went to court. The jury in Portland didn't convict the black man because they said that the white man was causing this problem because he called him the N word. So, have you ever thought about that? And I don't use the N word, but have you ever thought about it? That's the only word that really only black people can use. No one else can use that word. Why is that? I don't use it because I find it offensive, but freedom of speech says you should be able to use any word. I hear a lot of people use the R word when they're talking about people doing something stupid, when to the disabilities community and people with intellectual difficulties, that's super offensive. But it doesn't seem to bother anybody else. But that N word, we sure can't say that. And now you got a guy convicted or let off from stabbing someone because the person used the N word. Does that give him an excuse to stab him? Is that, I mean, is that a hate term? And also, then how come black people can use that term and it's not a hate term? I mean, stuff like this I think this is what a lot of us are just really tired of. There's a double standard for everyone. And then if we even come out and talk about this, you watch. I've got a couple of blogs coming out this week that are going to piss some people off, and that's okay. But it's things I feel like I'm supposed to talk about because nobody else will. And we need to be done with this. We need to stop pressuring. The final straw for me was when Katie Brown Jackson refused to define the word woman. Yeah. I mean, if you can't tell me what a woman is or what a man is and how they're different, there's no hope for you. And it's because you don't want to lock yourself in a box. And then it's just crazy because then we've also got people that, and for those people who identify or want to identify as the opposite sex, I'm not stopping you. I don't care. It's your business. I don't look down on you for that. I don't, I'll admit I don't understand it, but I don't have to understand. You don't have to understand me. It's I am so misunderstood and I don't care anymore because it's not my job to live on this planet and make people understand what I'm thinking. I'm going to talk about it and you can't shut me up. I mean, you can make my life miserable, I guess, but that would mean I'd have to, care what you think. The mental thinking or just dang fad. Yeah, I don't know, Ron. I mean, I know there's more of it because I think there's more of it because it's more acceptable. Rick, have you considered running for governor? Candace, I would absolutely love to be the governor of Oregon. I would just love it. I think I'd be good at it. I think I'd do a great job. Because, I mean, despite what the haters think, I'm a fair guy. That doesn't mean I'm going to, tell you, kiss your ass and say, I think you're fine. I think your ideas are fine. If your ideas suck, I'm going to tell you they suck. And you can do the same for me. That's what a free country is all about. But I think it'd be a great governor. But you know what? I ran for Secretary of State in 2008, and I saw how fucked up the system is, honestly, and how money rules everything. And I'd hear all the time the left saying, oh, big corporations fund all the elections in Oregon. Big corporations do give money to causes. But how come they never talk about the SEIU, the unions? How come they never talk about the Oregon Education Association and how much money it dumps into campaigns? When I ran, a guy named Lauren Parks gave me a bunch of money at the end. The Oregon Education Association gave Kate Brown, my opponent, close to the same amount of money. The newspapers went after me like stink on shit. Nothing was said about the OEA money given to Kate Brown. I I can cause more problems out here than I can being governor of Oregon. You got some candidates this time around I think could do the job pretty well. But it's a game, and I'm done playing games. I spent 30 years in the TV industry, putting on the makeup, getting on screen, telling people what people wanted to me, what they wanted to hear. And now people say, I don't like you. I like the old Rick Dancer. Well, that guy was run by the TV station. It wasn't Rick Dancer. I heard that the white called him that after he got stabbed. That could be true, Terry. Yeah, which makes it even more weird. You know, I don't. It's unbelievable, unbelievable. What do you guys think is up? You know what I mean? Did you guys see where now? I wrote something on this yesterday, and I've never seen this kind of response. Oh man, it was it was Springfield City Council. All these city councils in Oregon, they have no guts. They have no. I don't believe they believe this, but they're all declaring a state of emergency over. They think of what they say is ICE coming in and taking innocent people out of the communities. Maybe that's happening a little. I don't know. I don't watch that TV, the legacy media, but far more terrible people are being taken out, and maybe some mistakes are being made, but they're blowing this up like, you know, and making it, they're the fear mongers, and they're making it like these poor, these, people here who, anybody who's here, and then the people who are pro illegal immigration, they make it a brown and black and race issue. It's not a brown and black. We have a case right here in Montana of a white guy. I don't know where he's from, but he's white like me. And he is trying to not get deported and came out and said all this stuff in the news and everything. And people turned on him. They were like, what are you here for? I mean, if you're here illegally, then you're here illegally. I don't get it. I don't understand why these cities, so they're breaking the law by allowing these folks to stay here. Now, if there's some circumstances with some, then we need to look at that. And I'm not saying the system's perfect, but by and large, not mass quantities of people, innocent people are being evicted and taken out of the country. And that's what the media and the pro illegal aliens, and they hate when you call them that, but that's what they are. It's kind of like we try to soft pedal everything. I remember working in the news business, and we had pro-life for abortion. We had the pro-life group, and we had the pro-choice group, and which is just a bunch of bullshit, because the same people who support pro-life and hate abortion, a lot of those people are very supportive of capital punishment. So you can't really call that pro-life, you know? Because what it's based on an age thing, like 9 months and younger, where we don't think you should be killed, but anything after that, if you created a crime, you should be killed. So let's get the note. It's not pro-life. We can't use that word. And pro-choice. Doesn't that sound so sweet? We're pro-choice. Everybody's pro-choice. I'm pro-choice. I think you should have the choice whether you go to school or not. I think you should have the choice of whether you eat marshmallows or not. I think you should have the choice of whether you drink beer or not. I think you should have all kinds of choices. I think you should have the choice that if you get pregnant, that you have many choices. You have the choice to give it up for adoption, to keep it, to give it away. There's plenty of choices. For me personally, killing a child is not an option, should not be an option. So I had a news director come in, and he was a very liberal guy, one of my favorite people in the whole world. And Alan Beck came in and he said, we're not going to play the game anymore. We're not going to call these groups pro-life and pro-choice. That's what they want. That's their spin. So we're news people. We're supposed to call the facts. So what is the issue? Is it choice? No. Is it life? No. The issue is abortion. So you're either pro-abortion or anti-abortion. Let's just cut it to the chase. So he forced everybody in the newsroom, when they wrote a script, they had to have pro-abortion and anti-abortion on that script. You should have seen our newsroom. They couldn't write it. People would write around it. They would come up with some other words. They just didn't want to call people pro-abortion. They didn't mind calling people anti-abortion, but they didn't want to call people pro-abortion because that sounds bad, because it is bad. So that's just like some of the little games that get played. But and words matter. Words do matter. What they mean. We've lost the meaning of words. We've made mush, oatmeal out of our language because everybody's so fucking afraid to say what they really think. I even get people come, I like what you say, but I hate when you cuss. It's a word. Jesus called the religious leaders of his day that were charging peasants, people, poor people, they were charging them for pigeons to sacrifice. They had nothing. And here these religious assholes were charging them to buy a dove that they could go kill to sacrifice to God. And so Jesus came in. That's when he turned all the tables over because he was pissed. And what did he call him? You brood of vipers. That's a fucker. I'm sure of it. That's the same thing. It's like that's Jesus saying the word fucker. So people get so upset about that. And it's like, lighten up. It's a word. It's like, oh my gosh, people. I remember and I've told this story before, and I don't know if anybody remembers, but I remember going to back in the day when women's rights were coming in, and it was a big conversation. And there was a news conference, and somebody asked a question about, calling them ladies or females, and this, fat, angry woman says, "No, you don't call us those names. You call us woman." And I started thinking about it, going, "Wait a minute. You don't want to be called female, and you don't want to be called lady. Those are terms that are just one gender, mean something, but you want to be called woman." So I raised my hand and I said, I don't get it, because lady and female are two words and they mean female, and you don't like those words, but you would rather be called woman, which literally means from man. Do you find that ironic at all? That you're in the women's lib movement, you want more women's rights, which I totally support, but you want me to call you from man. And this lady was livid. And she said, "Nobody pays attention to the meaning of words." I said, "I do." Do you find that ironic? I do. I think that shows the craziness. Do women have, yes, they should have rights, but why get all bent out of shape over whether someone calls you a lady or a female? I remember when I was in the news business, let's see, illegal immigration cheats all the immigrants complying with the immigration laws. I 100% agree. Why is it okay that some people get a pass? They come here illegally, so they break the law. They do something bad. So doesn't that deserve the other word that we never use in our culture, a punishment? When you have all these other people who are coming here the right way, and it takes forever and it's hard, and they work at it, and they probably know the Constitution better than you and me. Jesus is a man, love him, can't wait to meet him, but he will say, "Come on, fucker." Only if you're a religious leader, Brian. But, so you're rewarding people for bad behavior, and you're punishing people who do it the right way. How, and they're brown people too, and white people, and yellow and red and black, but only the certain group that the virtue signaling white people care about. That's the only thing that matters. And as long as they can try to tear you down and call you names, that's all they care about. Well, here's what they don't understand. We don't give a shit anymore. We've seen your hypocrisy. We've seen your lies. You've ripped up our lives. I've also wrote a blog that's coming out this week about what's happening with our young men. Have you seen this? The studies that are coming out with young men and white, let's just talk about it, young white men. And they're emasculated because they've made them misogynists and terrible people and all that stuff. And they're not. They're just trying to find their way like everybody else. But there's nothing worse than being a white male, I guess. I disagree. And what are these young men doing? They're turning Republican. You know, that's a good move by the Democrat Party. Chase away all the bright, intelligent young men. What's also happening is more young women are becoming much more liberal. So then you're not having partners. You got young men who are becoming more conservative, young women becoming more liberal, and they don't want to date. So you got more single men and more single women. And it's and it's interesting too that young men where they're going back to, they're going back to the like churches like Orthodox Catholic churches, Greek Orthodox, Episcopalian. They're looking for, I think, foundation. They're looking for something stable, something that's gone on for and passed down over the years. They don't want to go to these, modern churches that are all, and hooey and all that stuff. They're done with that. They want something concrete to put their feet on because culture and society tells them they're shit when they're not. So you got all these young men who are lost. It's really sad. You know that the average young man doesn't buy a house now till they're 40 years old because our housing system is so screwed up, because we're spending money sending it to the Ukraine, and they're taking their money and buying fancy cars in Monaco and lavish houses and stuff. The leadership in the Ukraine, not the people, but the leadership. That's where kids' money's going. Your tax dollars. Going to Israel. I'm not anti-Israel, but what the fuck are we spending money there for? I mean, shouldn't that be coming to I'm all about take care of America first. We're not the world police force anymore. We should have never been. But we don't have enough money. There's what is that? I think it's in the Bible. Maybe there's a line. Take care of your own. Until you get your own house in order. Stop getting your nose in other people's business. And that's what we do as a country. America has to be the savior. It's like we think we're tough or that shows our dominance or something. Why don't we just take care of the people in our country that are really having a hard time right now? Get our housing prices down. Stop requiring all this stupid bullshit regulations that you do in developments and curbs and sidewalks and tree plantings. That's all nice. But when you require that for a housing development, it's outpricing people right out of homes. So, okay, you don't have all the niceties, but give them a roof that they can be proud of. It's theirs. They're paying instead of paying someone else's rent, they're paying their way in. I mean, come on. These are our kids. They are seeking truth and tired of being lied to. Insult to our intelligence. Matthew, 100%. 100%, Matthew. Yeah, they're done with your bullshit. And they don't care about your gender equity. They don't care when you call them racist. They know it's because it's just words out of your mouth. You don't even mean them. You don't even know what you don't care. You're about as concerned as racism as it's nothing. And you don't care about homophobes. You don't care. It's just something to call somebody to try to degrade them and get your position. And I don't care. Yeah, Heidi, building permits are insanely high. I wonder if we could be what's going on, Rick, on what's tonight? Oh, we're just talking about all kinds of stuff, Josh. I wonder if it could be being a female is decided before birth, but to become a lady takes work. That wasn't their, I'm sure surely that wasn't their reason, but I love that. Yeah. And you know what? I think a lot of those women probably have never become a lady. They're too busy worried about, I mean, my mom was a great case. She was like, she was a working mom. She worked, my dad and mom both worked, and my mom wasn't treated badly. And careful, you're intoxicating masculinity. You're intoxicating masculinity is showing, I'm a dude. I think like a dude. I am a dude. I have a penis, all that stuff. I'm a dude. That's what I am. I do have a tender heart, but I'm still a dude. And I don't want to change that. I don't care. I'm not going to change it. You can't change it. You can pretend. My wife and I know a lot of women who take such offense at men who dress up like women and then act like that. They act more like that's not what a woman acts like. And my wife's going, no woman acts like that. You don't put on a dress and do that. She goes, that's not a woman. And so you're belittling women by doing that, I think. And they think what's more important is they think it. So they have no respect for it. Again, do what you want to do, but remember, there's victims to what you're doing too. The country is so divided and sucks because I don't see race, I see heart. Yeah, and Brian, and if you tell these people that, they'll say, no, it's what was that they used to say that it was built into our culture. I can't think of the word right now. I need to explain and comprehend the details of dumb reporter and housing reparation funds. Yeah. Oh, don't even get me on reparations. You know what I mean? What? So I have never had a relative in the last 150 years that has had a slave. And I do not agree with slavery. America stopped slavery sooner than a lot of countries. England was the big one. There's still countries that have slavery. And Africa was the one who had slavery and sold their slaves to America. And that was their people. So climb down off your high horse and get your history right, because you got your fact. It's funny how a lot of times the extreme leftist people, they act like they want to debate and argue you, but they have no facts and they have no information. It's just a joke. So the key to all of this is to not let that make you have a bad attitude towards legal immigrants, or people of color, or people that are white, or people that are Asian, any of it. We're supposed to love God says we're supposed to love everyone, even the left. And I have lots of friends on the left that I do love, but it drives me crazy because they say one thing out of one part of their mouth and another, like do your research, and then they don't. Look at COVID, all that's come out on that. They still won't admit that it was a mistake. I'm trying to find my joy this Christmas season. I'm not feeling it. Well, you know what, Heidi, what you should feel is the God of the universe knows your name. He knows who you are. And he cares about everything you care about. And he has a plan for your life. And no matter what Donald Trump does, or Rosie O'Donnell, or Michelle Obama, or Hillary and Bill Clinton do, God is in charge. Now that's something to be happy for. I'm not a big Christmas guy. I like the holiday. It's not really Jesus's birthday. You can celebrate it for him. That's great. We can all do that. But despite Christmas and all the trappings and bullshit that goes on with it, because there's nothing about Christmas that looks like Jesus. Overspending people. It's all about money. It's all about gifts, what you're getting, all that stuff. But the bottom line is God came to earth as one of us. That's how much he loved us. And who did he come to? Oh, he didn't come to the Vanderbilt family. He wasn't born in the Rockefeller family. He was born in a manger to a poor family because their hearts were after God. God chooses people because he sees their heart. He didn't give a shit about their pedigree. He didn't care about where their money came from, or if they don't have any money. He cares as much about the poorest person on earth as he does the richest. Mother Teresa once said, I was not called to be successful. I was called to be faithful. There's a lot of people who aren't faithful, Heidi, and I have a feeling you are. So he is in there. And he had a plan to trick the culture, to trick the rulers and principalities of darkness by bringing his son as a human. So he came to the earth as a human because the enemy never suspected that. And the culture, the religious leaders of the day freaked out because how could God come in such a lowly way with dung around him? All of that. And that's what he did. Because he wanted to, you know why? Because he wanted to relate to you and me. He didn't do that to create the greatest story ever told that, you know, um, could be produced on a screen. He did it because he wanted to see Heidi and he wanted to see Larice and he wanted to be um, all that. He wanted to rub elbows with us. And then he knew that we couldn't do everything right because we're human and we make mistakes all the time. I do. So he knew that. So he knew the only way to to be the ultimate sacrifice so that we could accept his grace and go on and have everlasting life. So, Heidi, I think we can find plenty to be hopeful for. Does that mean there's a cost in the middle? And yeah. Does that mean that sometimes there's merit to not forgiving? If you forgive somebody and they do the same thing again and you end up dead forgiving, you know what I think you do though? I think you just keep forgiving over and over again. No kings but Jesus. Yeah, thanks, Clark. I think you have to keep forgiving over and over again, but you don't have to forget. That doesn't mean you're a doormat. You can forgive people, and I'm speaking to myself. I have people in my life right now I need to forgive, and I haven't. I mean, I do, but I'm still in process. It doesn't happen overnight, right? I mean, we're human, but Jesus said, forgive what, 7 times 7, 70, 7 times 70, which means just all the time. And then, you know what I think we also have to do, and I know this is true for me, forgive yourself. you know, I'm learning so much right now at this season. I'll get a little personal here. I think some big changes are coming. I don't know. I think it's culturally and also just in my life. I think some big things are on the forefront, and I'm I'm somewhat excited for change, but I'm also a little bit nervous because I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think it's going to be, um, you know, I think a lot of churches sell, you know, prosperity doctrine, where if you do what Jesus tells you to do, you're going to have a happy life. Well, I've seen a lot of people, and like Charlie Kirk. Yeah, he had a happy life, but he paid the ultimate sacrifice for doing the right thing and for continuing to do the right thing. And every disciple that followed Jesus closely lost their lives, and it wasn't pretty. It was, you know, hanging on a cross upside down, being stoned to death, dying in prison, all of them. So if you look at the martyrs and you look at the people around the world right now who are dying in other countries for being Christians, there's a cost. And I don't think America's, I think things can get a little better, but I don't think the enemy's given up, and they're going to keep coming after us. And I think it's going to get harder. So I don't say that to scare anyone, but to be prepared and know, where does your joy come from? It comes from the Lord, right? So you gotta keep reminding yourself, who's in charge, who's in charge. And I'm not preaching to you. I'm preaching to me. You're just here to listen. You're butting in on my conversation that normally would go on in my head and my mouth and all that. I had a friend tell me that, we're all part of, it says in the Bible that Jesus leaves and then we are his body, right? And we're all a part of his body. And this is a new friend of mine. He's a real strong Christian guy. And, guess what part of the body I am? Well, I would pick that, probably the ass, but I don't know if we have to be Jesus's ass. I don't know. But he says, Rick, you're Jesus's tongue. And that kind of touched me a little bit because, I wholeheartedly believe, and there's more to the story, but I can't tell you right now because it involves family. But I know that, um, you know, my mission in life has always been to give voice to the voiceless. I don't care about the loud mouths of the people that scream. I want regular people to come alive because there's too many people walking around afraid to say anything. And when you open your mouth and you say what you truly believe, there's a power that goes with that that you will just absolutely not believe. And from day one, I had a business coach, and she said to me one day, Rick, why do you do what you do? And I said, because I think everybody has a voice, and whether I agree or not, they should be able to use it. And she said, why? I said, I don't know. And as I sat and thought about it, I felt like God whispered in my ear, and it's because my dad never listened to me. And, he wasn't a bad man. We just didn't see each other. So he didn't listen to me. So I always knew what that felt like, that pain of somebody saying, what do you think we should do? And you tell them and you have a good idea. And then they go off and do whatever they wanted to anyway, which meant just slaps you in the face and says, you don't matter. And I wasn't really listening. I don't want anybody to feel like that. So I've always done stuff with regular people and a lot of people with different abilities, a lot of people who are being picked on. And I love putting people on my show that have no other voice. Had a couple ladies on here a few weeks ago, ladies, and their kids had to look at some cartoon of a guy screwing a woman while another guy holds it down in their classroom. And they were totally put off by this. Well, I gave them a voice. I put them on my podcast. And it didn't change the world, but it rocked theirs. And they got some attention for that. They are, I did what God wants. I did what God made me for, to give them a voice. And all I have to do is have this audience and have the ability to do what I do. So maybe I am Jesus's tongue. Now, sometimes I say things Jesus would never say, so I wouldn't put that on him. But what are you? That's what's more important, not what I'm doing. What are you? What part of the body are you? My friend Unity told me. I said, what part are you? And he said that. I said, what? He goes, I'm the middle finger. He goes, me and Charlie Kirk are the middle finger. And what he means by that, for those of you who don't understand, and I don't want you to draw conclusions on that, is somebody has to tell culture to fuck off. Somebody has to tell the enemy of our soul, screw you, you don't get me, and you don't get them. That's the middle finger. So we all have a job. Even the pinky's important, and even the littlest toe. Because if you ever had your little toe hurt, the balance of the whole body goes out. One little thing in the body goes away and the function is not quite right. You have your gallbladder removed. It's harder to eat certain foods. Any of that stuff, it all matters and it all keeps balance in the body. I think there's a lot of people fed up with left ideology. I think there are too, Kimberly. I think, you know what it is? Because it's a lie. You know what we're fed up with? And it's not the left. We're fed up with the enemy of our soul, using politics and these people to rip us apart and tear us down. So what we're saying is, shut the hell up. We're not doing it anymore. It's like kind of saying, Satan, get behind me. But it's saying it to these people because if you say that to someone like that, they're not going to understand. They'll make fun of me already on here because I said that. But see, here's their problem, biggest problem. I don't care because I know who I serve. I know who they serve and I know who I serve. And I've read the end of the book. And that doesn't mean I get off with a pass. That doesn't mean I won't get caught, killed. Doesn't mean I won't get shot. But you know what? It does mean that I'm doing what I was put here on this earth to do. So I got a little assignment for you. Go look up your name. Oh gosh, Liberty, you're getting into my place right here. Ancient origins, Greek phallic symbol. The gesture mimics an erect penis with the other fingers representing testicles used to insult or ward off the evil eye. Seriously? The penis is a big deal in all this stuff. Did you know that the steeple on a church is also a phallic symbol? It is. And so here we take old churches and we put penises on top of them. That's kind of bad. Here, I got one more for you. If you want me to help you with your Christmas spirit, where's the Christmas lights? Yeah, we don't have them. Do you know what the tree is a symbol of? A penis. It's a phallic symbol. So at Christmas time, to worship Jesus, I mean, just think of the humor in this. We put up a tree and so we put a large penis in our home and we put lights and balls on it and little toys. And then we call it Christmas. Now, I'm not trying to be like the Scrooge, but I think that all that stuff kind of does matter. And I think as the world keeps turning and we start finding more things out, that there's going to be things that are going to be cut out of our lives. And I have a feeling that the penis Christmas tree might be one of them. I come complete with my own penis. I don't need a tree. We chop it down first, Rick. Yeah, well, that's good. Yeah. I said one year to my wife, you know those big Bosu balls that they have at the gym to do sit-ups on? I said, we should get 2 of those and stick it on each side of the tree and then just say Merry Christmas and take a Christmas card and send it to people. Anyway, okay, you guys, I've taken way more of your time than you need. So tomorrow night, again, tune in. We're going to tell you more about where the recall of Tina Kotek is, and also about this new idea to get non-affiliated voters and the rest of us all more involved in the process of what's going on. And then on Wednesday, I've got a guy who's an education specialist from back east, and he's going to come and talk to us some hard language about schools and what they're doing and not doing. So never heard. Well, look it up, because I looked it up, Debbie, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. I know my penises. Okay, and so that's on Wednesday night, and then I invited somebody else, like my life. She wrote and said, nobody's listening to us. They're doing this in our community in Banks, Oregon. We need to get the word out. And I said, you want to come on my show? So I'm waiting to hear if she'll come on. Those are the fun shows, because you never know what's going to happen. It can blow up in your face, but they never do. All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you guys later. Have a great evening, and share this on your page, because there's other people that might need to hear it. And besides, I need to get more enemies. Put it on your most liberal friend's page. I'll see you. Bye-bye.